Welcome to the Opinion Show today, the morning after the State of the Union address by President Obama, the second to last of his presidency, and the first in which he is facing Congress that is completely controlled by Republicans with the takeover of the Senate in the midterm elections by the GOP. We editorialized today that we thought his tone unnecessarily confrontational, even though he made a lot of references to the potential areas of compromise with Congress, and certainly those words of bipartisanship and reaching out dominated the end of his speech. So the question I think we're going to address is not only on the Opinion Show, is not only was that a good speech to give at this moment, but also where do we go from here? I'm Elizabeth Sullivan. I direct the opinion content for the Northeast Ohio Media Group. I run the editorial board for the Plain Dealer and Northeast Ohio Media Group. I'm joined by Kevin O'Brien, the deputy editorial page editor for the Plain Dealer and columnist, and editorial writers Pete Krouse, Sharon Broussard, and Chris Evans. So Pete, I'm going to start with you because you were the one who basically was in the chief seat yesterday.
I watched it.
Watching, reviewing the transcript and writing our editorial. So.
Well, yeah, actually, I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was less confrontational, actually, than we anticipated. In the run-up to the speech, everybody was expecting Obama to talk more about transfer of wealth, taxing the rich, taxing capital gains, and providing middle-class tax credits and those kinds of things. And he really didn't go there. He went there somewhat, talked about things that he wanted to do for working families and so forth. But for the most part, it wasn't as confrontational or as controversial as I had expected it to be. I actually thought it was a pretty good speech. The Republicans obviously sat on their hands for much of it because, you know, what else are they going to do? He spent a lot of time trumpeting the economy and the economic rebound that the country has experienced, but saying that he wanted to do more, and in particular to help the poor and the middle class. He touched on his plan to, or his desire to extend free community college, 2 years of community college to anybody basically who wants it. He talked about cybersecurity, the need for cybersecurity, although he didn't go into too much detail there. He asked for authority to go more strongly after ISIS in the Middle East. And these were some of the things where he's likely to get some bipartisan cooperation, I think. As for the tax reforms, which he foreshadowed prior to the speech but didn't really get into, those aren't going anywhere. But overall, I thought it was a good speech. You know, Obama is a master a speaker. Nobody, I think, he makes even Bill Clinton look like a stutterer. I think his timing is impeccable. Anyway, I thought overall it was fun to watch.
So Kevin, is this going anywhere? Are any of his ideas going anywhere? Did he touch on enough areas of commonality? He said he'd be presenting a budget week from Monday that would contain a lot of practical, nonpartisan ideas. Do you think, the dawning of the age of Aquarius is upon us in Congress?
I think Pete just said it was fun to watch. It's going to take me a while to recover from that, but I did not watch it. I always read.
He's funny. Fun, Kevin?
He's funny. I mean, he's pretty well. I just think that
he's hilarious.
I
always read these things. I cannot stand to watch them. I haven't watched the State of the Union speech since early in the George W. Bush administration.
Wow.
I just would rather spend my time reading them because my time is so much better spent. But I did read it. I think what I was reading was the death certificate for this session of Congress, because I don't think any of this stuff is going anywhere, and he's just declared, look, it's going to be a Donnybrook anytime anybody tries to do anything. You're not going to get anything past me, and I think the Republicans in Congress are saying we're going to do our darndest to make sure you don't get anything past us. Mm-hmm. And so I think, the federal government that can't be affected by executive orders is probably in a holding pattern for the next couple of years. And I'm fine with that. That's good.
So the White House did something very unusual with this speech, I mean, never done before as far as we know, and that is they provided the transcript in advance to the American public, along with multimedia shows, graphs, charts, anything you want to know about this issue. Here are our talking points. In addition, the president spent much of the last 2 weeks basically on the road previewing many of these proposals directly to the American public, kind of indication that he was speaking in this speech not just to Congress, but also to the American public. Sharon, what do you think about that strategy, and could that pay off for him?
I think that was a good strategy. I understand that the audiences for these kinds of speeches are really falling off. I mean, there's so many different things people can be doing with their time on mobile devices and YouTube and everything else that, they don't have to watch this anymore. But I thought it was interesting to do it that way, but at the same time in the speech then kind of talk about the benefits, for example, of passing a law about paying for college for 2 years, community college for 2 years, or the child tax credit that he threw out there, and a couple of the other issues. So yeah, I thought it gave him a chance to just kind of maybe let the rhetoric soar a little too much. Everything is hunky-dory, we've turned a corner, and we are now a united family, but at the same time, get out all the hard stuff that some people will want to pour over. Though, of course, we still don't know how he intends to pay for that. We need to look forward to the sequel, which will be the budget.
Well, what about this idea of united family, Chris? That seemed to be a theme throughout, that one of the things in my mind that the president was doing was encouraging the public to kind of ratchet down those emotions that have been stirred by Ferguson, by Tamir Rice, by some of these police shootings, and sort of, let's dial back.
He was, I thought,
the
at the end, very conciliatory. He mentioned Ferguson. He mentioned New York, and he did it from the perspective of people who were directly impacted. The father of a child who worries if his child is safe walking the streets. The wife of a police officer worrying if her husband is going to come home. And he cited figures, or he didn't cite figures, he made the statement that incarceration rates and crime rates have been going down for the last 4 decades, and that this was an area where Republicans, Democrats, community leaders, law enforcement can come together and work on reforming the American justice system so it is in fact a justice system as opposed to a just us system, which is what it seems like now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the last 6 months has been one series of venting after another over a lot of these things, and I think maybe as a country, maybe we've gotten a little bit of that out of our system. Now it's whether or not we can look more objectively at what transpired and see what we can really do to make the country heal over some of these.
Well, reform of the justice system, I think, is imperative. I mean, because and the president referred to this idea of trust, and there is no trust in that system, and to have the president call out in front of the people and Congress for a reconciliation, for working together to restore credibility to that system, I think is very important.
Yeah, and it's important for him to call that out, but on the other hand, that's going to be a local and a statewide initiative, and that's because, obviously the feds don't control local police departments, so that's going to be on them to, not yet though.
Locally, the feds will be involved.
But I mean, the feds are involved in Cleveland. I mean, they get involved.
Yeah, but in the end, who's going to be doing the heavy lifting? So yes, there will be negotiations on the parameters of what that reform is like, and maybe measurements, so that way the feds can take a look and see how you're doing. But in the end, it's going to be, is that embraced by the local and state folks, and do they actually run with the ball? Because the feds are not going to be involved in your police department forever. It's up to you to
No, but I mean,
changes.
if the local communities aren't, like if Jackson decides to walk away, the feds will take you to court.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
but Jackson's not walking
go back to the State of the Union, though, because to me, it was really a tale of two potential sets of priorities. One is this focus that the president had on the middle class and the need to improve its stature by policies that's were wealth transfer, basically, and also that would allow more people in the middle class to maybe get education, get jobs, get childcare. And on the other,
get more money in their pocket.
and on the other, there is this idea of, the issues that we can find, commonality across the aisle, which could be, more significant in the sense of legislation, such as, he threw out infrastructure. He seemed to suggest, the pipeline was not everything, a reference to the Keystone XL. He put out trade, immigration issues, things that really there could be a bipartisan consensus. One of the things I wonder, Kevin, is do you think that any of those issues could yield some progress? Now you finally have Congress that's going to be able to generate legislation at a fairly rapid pace because you don't have the divided Congress.
I think it's easier to forecast that when you did as he did last night and you speak in topics, and well, on this or on that, maybe we can find some common ground, or maybe there's already common ground. Okay, good as far as it goes. It's the specifics that undo these things and the methods of how you get from here to there that tend to cause the division. The trade thing I thought was interesting because he really walked back his 2008 position, which was, he was anti-NAFTA. He didn't think free trade had been very well done, very well handled. And the way he did it was, last night he said, well, all the trade deals before haven't been very good, but you're really going to like this one. And I was reminded of, the Democrats could do what they want because now they have me, back in 08. I'm not sure it's going to be that easy. The devil's going to be in the details. It's going to be what the Republicans are willing to accept. It's going to be what the price is to be paid for each of these initiatives and each of these topics that he covered last night. I really don't see a lot getting done, even in these areas that are allegedly fruitful, for common ground.
But in the trade issue, though, the pushback could come from some of the more liberal Democrats as much as.
Oh yeah, they are the ones who sat on their hands when that topic came up. Yeah.
And on the other hand, though, I'm not sure if this Congress wants to be like the last Congress, which has been, has been, tagged with the name of Do Nothing Congress. I keep hearing from some of the Republican leadership, that's not the road we want to go on. So I'm hoping that both sides, even though, they may be far apart right now in their rhetoric, will get down to the nitty-gritty of, compromise and, walk away with something they could live with, even though it's not the whole enchilada.
Yeah, but I think what the Republicans are also thinking, just as far as political strategy, is that they're not going to get tagged with that because they're going to do things, because they can now, that'll get through both houses. They're going to send them to him,
and watch him veto,
and then they're going to call him an obstructionist
and
reverse those roles. I don't know if it'll work, but that's definitely what's in their minds.
Chris, what do you think?
I think that I think he's going to back off the pipeline. I think he's going to back off that, and that could be a chip, on the table in horse trading and getting some things done. But it's going to be interesting to see, like Pete noted earlier, I mean, the Republicans sat on their hands pretty much through the whole thing. And some of the commenters said, he came out with a fist rather than an open palm. So, it's going to be interesting to see, because Congress has to do something. I mean, the way things are now is not good. And it's going to be interesting to see if they do, if something can be done.
And I think part of this too, and this is really up to Obama, the Republicans and Obama really do not like each other. And I think it extends beyond just differences on policy and the way of looking at the world. There's an animosity there. I'm not exactly sure why it is, but they're not going to socialize with each other at a party. And I think it's up to Obama. He's going to have to make some overtures. He's going to have to invite the Republicans up to the White House, or go up to Capitol Hill, or do whatever. He's going to have to just try to be more personable, not necessarily persuasive, okay, but just somehow break the ice a little bit, because I think that the animosity, the personal animosity, gets in the way of things actually getting done.
So I think that we're running out of time. The president laid out his agenda last night. Our editorial board is currently discussing our agenda for 2015. in addition to wanting to hear from you about what you thought about the president's speech last night, we would like to hear more about your thoughts about what should be our editorial priorities for 2015. What are the issues you would like us to push for? Please, leave those in the comments. We'll be having some more posts on that this week, and look for those. And we'll be reassessing how we did with our 2014 agenda shortly. I want to thank you for watching, and tune in next week at this time. Thank you.